Welcome back to my page. Today's Women's History Moment is Josephine Butler. Josephine Elizabeth Butler, 1828 to 1906, was a prominent British social reformer, feminist, and women's rights advocate whose tireless efforts transformed the lives of women in the 19th century. Her work challenged societal norms, fought against systemic injustice, and laid the groundwork for future advancements in gender equality. Butler's contributions to women's history are particularly notable in her campaigns against the exploitation of women, her advocacy for education, and her leadership in the abolition of state-regulated prostitution. Born into a wealthy and politically active family, Josephine Butler was raised with a strong sense of social justice. Her father, John Grey, was a cousin to British reformist Prime Minister Earl Grey and an abolitionist who deeply influenced her worldview. After marrying George Butler, an Anglican clergyman and educator, Josephine became increasingly involved in social causes, particularly those affecting women. Butler's activism was fueled by personal tragedy. The death of her young daughter, Eva, in 1863 led her to channel her grief into helping marginalized women. She began working with women in workhouses and prisons, many of whom were victims of sexual exploitation and poverty. This work exposed her to the harsh realities faced by women in Victorian society and galvanized her commitment to reform. One of Butler's most significant contributions was her leadership in the campaign to repeal the Contagious Disease Acts of the 1860s. These laws, enacted to curb venereal diseases in the British military, required women suspected of being prostitutes to undergo invasive medical examinations. Men were not subjected to the same scrutiny, highlighting the gendered injustice of the legislation. Butler argued that the CDAs institutionalized the sexual double standards and violated women's rights. She organized petitions, wrote pamphlets, and delivered powerful speeches, mobilizing public opinion against the acts. Her efforts were met with fierce opposition, including personal attacks and threats, but she persisted. In 1886, the CDAs were finally repealed, marking a major victory for women's rights and Butler's legacy as a fearless advocate. Butler was also a staunch supporter of women's education. She believed that education was key to empowering women and enabling them to achieve independence. In 1867, she played a pivotal role in establishing the North of England Council for Promoting the Higher Education of Women, which advocated for women's access to university education. Her efforts contributed to the eventual admission of women to universities in the UK. See you in the next Women's History Moment.